Listen, I know I'm gonna get flack for this in the comments because everybody in the comments is gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about? It doesn't even look like him." But I thought that the killer in this movie reminded me of Captain Cutler's ghost. If you don't know who Captain Cutler's ghost is, watch Saturday morning cartoons. Scooby Doo would be ashamed of you. In a Violent Nature is out now in select theaters and it's going to be out later this year on Shudder. It is written and directed by Chris Nash, and this is a different type of horror film, seen mostly from the perspective of the killer. The enigmatic resurrection, rampage, and retribution of an undead monster in a remote wilderness unleashes an iconic new killer after a locket is removed from a collapsed fire tower that entombed its rotting corpse. I think In a Violent Nature is just one of those movies that I'm just gonna see once and that's it. Never ever come back to it. It's not just because I think that it had a cool premise and the execution was poor. It's because it's very gnarly. It's very gory. There are great kills in here, but even if you're not squeamish, you're going to be turning away in some parts. There are so many kills in here where I'm just like, and I usually don't get like that in horror movies, and I think that, the gross out factor for me was what made me not wanna watch this movie again. It wasn't the fact that it was cool concept that just had poor execution. That is the main reason that this movie is disappointing, though. I'm not gonna say that this is a horrible movie at all, but I just think it could have done more with that concept. For much of the movie, we are following this killer around from a over the shoulder third person perspective, almost like you're watching somebody play a walkthrough of a video game and you just don't have control. And that was the most disappointing thing. And for a good chunk of the runtime, that over the shoulder third person view of the killer, you're just watching him walk around this empty wilderness, standing, just walking for a few minutes. And a lot of people might find that unique. A lot of people might find it interesting that we're getting to see how this killer operates. Seeing this killer, whose name is Johnny, by the way, what a stupid killer name. Most random slasher killer name you could think of. That he's analyzing the situation. And I understand that that could be the perspective that you have if you really, really like this movie. But I just found it to be a too monotonous. Even though there wasn't as much of it as there was, I kind of wish that there was less of it. And sometimes it would betray that perspective. You would cut from the killer's perspective to the victim's perspective. It just clashed. Both of these perspectives did feel like hindrances on the movie because you have so many scenes where there's just bleak silence. There's no musical score throughout this whole movie, and which I think is actually to his benefit. I think that that helps draw the tension up and the atmosphere, and it makes you feel like this could actually happen. That somebody is actually stalking people. It felt like It felt like somebody had just made like a fan movie, or had actually just recorded his friends being killed, which is kind of sad to say. And I'm not going to be too harsh on the movie because it's clear from the way that this movie is filmed that there is significantly low budget, and I'm trying to kind of get around that fact because I know that you don't have a lot of money at your disposal. You're using what you can. So I'm trying to be a little bit more lenient on the movie than I probably should be, and I feel like I should be because I'm taking that into account. And I have to, I feel like, because it does have that low budget feel to it, but it those two perspectives just clashed. I feel like the movie should have just stuck to one perspective and it should have just rolled with it for the whole thing, even if following this killer around feels a bit monotonous. And there's a survivor at the end, this final girl that the movie tries to make you care about so much, but you know nothing about any of these human characters. They're just there to be body bags, essentially, for Johnny to kill them in gruesome, bloody, mutilated ways. A little bit too much mutilation in this movie for my liking. But going back to that low budget, even with that, I did think it was a bit jarring because I understand the limitations here. But when you're watching the killer from an overhead third person perspective, and he's about 3 miles away from people in the distance or a building in the distance, and you can hear full blown conversations, that was jarring. I kept saying to myself throughout this entire movie, that feels like it should be muffled. There's no way that's possible. And for those squeamish kills, there was one where I was just like, whoa, 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 what the fuck? What the fuck audibly in my room, like screaming. And I was just like, what is going on right now? But unfortunately, in A Violent Nature, it's full of too much mutilation for my liking. I just don't think that the execution of this fresh take on a slasher film is as fresh or as executed to its full potential as it could have been. I think of In a Violent Nature can be liked with half a bucket of popcorn, but I wouldn't suggest eating during this movie for how gross it is. So if you have seen In a Violent Nature, let me know what you think of it in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.